Welcome back to the Alec Lewis Show. I am your host, Alec Lewis. This is episode 186, recording on Monday evening, July 27th, the day before Kevin O'Connell and Nolan Teasley, have their introductory press conference for training camp. And then we'll be out getting sunburnt at TCO Performance Center later this week. I cannot wait. I'm absolutely ready to roll. If you missed it last week, had a story at The Athletic where I do my day job on Dennis Ryan. Really fun one to do. We'll also have a story on Tuesday morning that is worth reading, that may or may not be related to one of the quarterbacks on the roster. So stay tuned for that at The Athletic. And if you're watching this Tuesday, you can go check that out. This show's on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify or iHeart, please rate, review, and follow us on those platforms. The guest is Paul Allen. He is the host of 9 to Noon on KFAN. He is also the play-by-play voice of the Vikings. I typically co-host the Friday Football Feast with him on KFAN throughout the season. Plan on doing that this fall. Really looking forward to it. But before we get to that conversation where we got into everything, including the quarterbacks at the end, I do want to talk about the Monday night signing. I was finishing up some dinner out in the Minneapolis area, may or may not have been in the North Loop, may or may not have been at a really good steak restaurant in the North Loop to celebrate the start of this wondrous new season that we are about to embark on. Started to get some text that the Vikings were doing something, and it happened to be signing former first-round pick Jamal Adams. Jamal, for the uninitiated, the top of the line thing to know is that he is, again, a former first rounder, really highly regarded player coming out of college, has bounced around the NFL a bunch in recent years. I believe, let me pull this up just for reference. But Jamal is most recently coming from the Las Vegas Raiders, where he played in 17 games. He started 4 of them. And he played at linebacker at 6'1", 213. That's what he is listed at on Pro Football Reference. He obviously began his career with the Jets. He bounced from there to the Seattle Seahawks, where the 3-time Pro Bowler and former first-team All-Pro played for the Seahawks, an organization that Nolan Teasley, the Vikings GM, Trick Kirshner, the Vikings AGM, those guys were a part of the process of obviously overseeing his entry there. He had in 2020 9.5 sacks. I cannot wait to go back and watch some of the film of those days, and more specifically of his season in 2025 with the Las Vegas Raiders. This is kind of in the weeds baseball, or a couple of things, but I would say the first is there is a connection between Vegas and Brian Flores as well. I want to make sure I get this right, but Patrick Graham, who is now the defensive coordinator with the Pittsburgh Steelers, was the DC last year in Las Vegas. Now there's, talk to people in the league about that Raiders defense. You're going to get a lot of thoughts on how much it was Patrick Graham's, how much it was Pete Carroll's, but the skinny here for you guys to know and to sound probably like you know what you're talking about. So Patrick Graham and Brian Flores worked together when Brian Flores was really, really young in the NFL, working with the New England Patriots. Those guys had desks and offices next to each other, and they have remained pretty close. And Patrick Graham, a lot of the concepts of his defense in recent years with the Raiders, some have been better than others, it come from that Patriot system, which obviously Brian Flores has adapted throughout his career. And so I will start by saying that Jamal Adams won't step into something that is, or people who are totally unfamiliar, nor a system that is totally unfamiliar. And I would also say that this signing has no declaration on Harrison Smith's future. If you've listened to me, if you've read my writing, I have continuously said that Harrison remains undecided and remains, he's still mulling the idea of returning for a 15th season at 37 years old. We've talked through in past episodes why the Vikings would love to have him, why it makes a lot of sense. And I would just say, like, Harrison Smith is a sheer competitor, so to hang it up is not going to be easy for him, whether that happens now or whether that happens later. So I'll be very curious to see a couple things. One, where does Jamal Adams kind of fit in? From a positional perspective, he's versatile. So, I mean, Brian Flores loves having guys who can line up everywhere, who can blitz off the edge, who can cover a nickel if they need to. I mean, you can imagine a world where, let's say Josh Metellus needs to play in the deep half as a safety. Then the Vikings are playing somebody where they need a bigger nickel instead of Byron Murphy Jr. Well, that's where an opportunity could arise for them to make something like Jamal Adams work for that position. There's a lot of moving and shaking that gets a little in the weeds. And like I said, I'm looking forward to watching some tape of the usage of Jamal to kind of have a better feel on the fit. But wanted to start there before we get into this podcast with Paul Allen. I asked for some questions on social media, decided to throw some of those at PA, and then we went back and forth on them. So fun conversation. Quarterbacks at the end. The next time we talk, I imagine probably see these guys on the field, listen to some of the Vikings leaders talk about this season, and really, really looking forward to it. So with that, here's Paul Allen of KFAN and host of the Vikings. Hope you enjoy the conversation. All right, Paul, it's been a while since you've been on the show. I think the last time might have been when we were in Ware, England. So the season's forthcoming. Good to have you back on. How are you? Are you ready for what is about to happen to our worlds, I guess?
What's going on, my brother? Always great to be on here. And the setup, your new setup, looks absolutely fantastic. So well done with that to you and the marketing director. And I mean, are you ever really ready? There the press conferences with the head coach and the general manager tomorrow. That kind
you can ask a question.
I mean, I can answer that in bit mode, or I can just tell you no. But for the purpose of our time together, I will just say no. And I'm going to sit in my same spot. And guess what? With the table, there will be Alec, there will be Ben, there will be Kevin, there will be Lindsey Young. Back here, me and Lavelli Neal III. Chris Long will probably be in the other room because we can still hear him from there. And
such a good, he'll ask the first question. I'm like, no one has Chris Long.
Yeah, he's the best. Old school, best school. So I'm looking forward to it. But Wednesday, we all get outside. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Off Sunday, pads on Monday. So I just want to show you that I'm ready because of the hair situation and the fact that it does get a little hot outside. I will have a headband which keeps the sweat out of the caterpillar eyebrows. And then over the headband, we're going to have this KFAN bucket hat. So this has some next level to it because it protects the face, but also helps keep the sweat away from the caterpillar. Now, if the headband, for whatever the reason, is not enough, given I see LeBron James behind you, we could dust off an old school NBA headband and look like I'm the white version of Morris Thorpe from the old school show White Shadow. Sure. But I don't know how well it fits under the bucket hat. About ready to test that. Oh, it's perfect. That is fantastic. So we have that option. We also have, in preparation for being outside with all my favorite media people like Alec Lewis, Dane Mizutani, Kevin Seifert, Ben Gessling, et al. We have the Oakley Justin Jefferson sunglasses.
Wow.
Was it last year or the year before? It was simulcast. He was on the sideline wearing some Oakleys. I complimented his Oakleys, and then all of a sudden I had Oakley asking me for my home address. After I vetted it out, I got these bad boys.
Wow.
Pretty cool. And I actually never have worn them. I mean, but for the purpose of this, I thought I would. Of course, we have a roster ready to go for that. And with the roster, of course, we need to memorize numbers and body types. So we have
shoulders.
We have sunscreen, that whole thing. Hopefully nobody with the Vikings sees this and says, you just messed up my fledgling endorsement with Coppertone because you showed Sunbomb. And
I will say, I feel bad for the people listening to this and not viewing it on YouTube. This is gonna be. I mean, people are gonna need the picture. Right? We're gonna. It's
go
tough.
to YouTube. Go to YouTube. Alex
Good
Lewis
call.
Show. Okay, don't
Good
leave
call.
home without it. Subscribe, hit that bell, and don't
Yeah.
forget that sub button. I'm gonna bring bug spray in case people are clipping on me. Then I can just be like, get rid of that. And finally, of course, something you've seen a million times. The old drive-by contraption. Plug this bad boy into the phone. Boop. Walk around. Byron Murphy Jr., your thoughts? Brian O'Neill, what do you think of Alec Lewis? Stuff like that. So I'm very ready. I'm very excited. And I get to spend more time with you and Dane and Ben and some other people. So it's going to be sweet.
Yeah. First of all, that was spectacular. Right? We didn't prep that.
These are spectacular.
Yeah. The Oakleys
I'm
are fantastic. You are excited. You might downplay it, but the opportunity to be back around the thing that you've been around for as long as you have. I mean, I know it's down. And we talked the other day, like the quarterback thing for you. You're not tired of it. Neither am I. Now, if you ask me next week, I might be. And we're going to save that until the end of the show, if that's okay with you. Is that okay? Sure. I'll just run that by you.
There are myriad topics through which we don't need to run now. But there are some uniquely compelling things with this team. And not to prioritize or like make power rankings, but I mean, honestly, yeah, I mean, they haven't won a playoff game since 2019. So we joke around a lot. The coach's extension, to whom much is given, much is expected. Jefferson's really good. So is Van Ginkel, talent on the team, the whole thing. I mean, they need to win a playoff game, so that's getting to this point. There are a lot of things that need to transpire that are just unique.
Yeah. So I had this idea, again, quarterback we'll do last, but I took some questions as we usually do early in the week on social media, and I'm going to lob them at you from the fans on social media, and then I'm going to give some thoughts on your responses while you hold binoculars.
And how is Mike Sando?
Yeah, Mike is great. All right, the first question, Jacob Bertram. He says, the Vikings have a lot of young, intriguing safety options going into training camp. Who of that group are you watching most closely and why, of the safeties?
Well, the low-hanging fruit, I think, is the right answer, the Miami rookie Jacoby Thomas. So, I mean, I'd start there. What position is Jay Ward going to play? And this is he's going to play safety, but with Brian Flores' defense, is Jacoby Thomas for sure just a safety? Josh Metellus, we've talked about him and Theo Jackson and the parachute potential of Harrison Smith, if that's even still a thing. But, after learning more about Jacoby via, some people who watch film and just like watched a lot of Miami stuff, and the fact that they mixed in some Brian Flores defense, I mean, literally the 7 across the line, the scheme. Which everybody does, and how well he embraced it. That's months ago, man. It's like May, but it really bit me. And to know that he's smart and to know that he's athletic, it's not all going to be there for Jacoby Thomas game number 1 against Green Bay. It's just virtually impossible to know the whole thing. But if he picks that thing up really, really quickly, I'm talking about the tricks in the defense and how not to give away things, and athletically speaking, he's really, really gifted that way, then I think he could play a lot and make a difference.
I think that's the absolute obvious answer. I think the sneaky one for me would be this undrafted rookie from James Madison, and his name is Jacob Thomas. I'm not making that up.
Well,
I know that sounds overdone, but there were some snaps in the spring where he was running a little bit with the twos. And so it's just a name that I would give Jacob Bertram to keep an eye on. But it's a group that I think is going to be really interesting. You were out there last year and obviously at the preseason games, there was a back end guy, Khalif Halesi, who kind of made some noise. So we're in the weeds as far as we could go. But I am curious to see how Brian Flores positions this room without Harrison Smith from the beginning. I mean, you said there's parachute potential. Yes, that is still a thing, whether it's toward the end of training camp, whether it's even after the season begins, but how they configure it until that point, for me, is one of the more interesting questions defensively.
Well, I mean, when it's too early to get into the active 53, even though, we will chat about it on the sideline, especially you, me, and Seifert. And those are things that I really look forward to, is like, all right, I got 9 offensive linemen. Here they are. What do you guys think? And then talk that out for 5 minutes, and then wide receivers, that whole thing. So offensively, I think I could set it now and get pretty close. Defensively, I can't remember how many safeties they kept last year, or really if there are going to be any, surprise names that maybe are no longer on the team. So that all starts Wednesday. We start looking at it that way. But with Thomas, yeah, I expect big things.
I'm gonna throw you kind of a random one here, and it goes off a conversation we had weeks ago about the potential of the run game. But the question was from Nick Miller, asked, is there a chance the new running scheme will be held back by the quality of the team's running backs? That's obviously a pretty detailed question. We could talk through Aaron Jones. We could talk through Jordan Mason. We could talk through Damon Claiborne. But I want to start by just asking you how much you're looking forward to seeing schematically what it looks like with Frank Smith, the assistant head coach, in the fold.
Extremely. But I guess, whether I'm watching practice on non-media days or being told things by other people who know what to look for, I mean, really, until the first 2-3 games of the year, can you have a proper answer on that? But it's what we do, and that includes you and others who take it seriously. We're reliant quite frequently on other people who know more about something telling us how they believe it is. And then I kind of go with it in low-key fashion until it's wrong or exceedingly right. And the point here is that I've just had too many of the right people for too long rave about associate head coach or assistant head coach Frank Smith. Now, of late, over the last month, I've had somebody tie Damon Claiborne to the way they want to run and how good he looks in it. And then finally, another person who would know more about it than us is if Claiborne picks up how to do this fast, and when to stop, when to cut, doesn't drop it, not nervous, things like that. I mean, you started talking about him, man, in March and April, and I've heard nothing but good things about Claiborne. So that plays into the quality or lack thereof. Jones is going to make all the right moves. The question is he going to get there in due time? And with Mason, how much of a tell is there when Mason's in the game that you're not going to stretch wide or he's not going to catch? So those are things that I'm thinking about, like you.
This show, to take our first break, is presented by First Resource Bank. That is a member FDIC bank in the Minneapolis area, run by really good people. Tim Siegley, Aaron Siegley, Charlie Anderson. These guys have developed a bank in this community that cares about connecting with businesses. I was out with some of these guys at the 3M Open, and I mean, it felt like they knew everyone on the course, which was pretty awesome to see, but they just really care about providing as good of a platform as possible for banking in this region. Awesome banking platform, really easy to set up an account. And so, and they're also Vikings fans, huge Vikings fans. So their information is in the description. Show is also sponsored by Pro MN Athletics. So for those who don't know, 3 guys a couple years ago, Kurt, Graham, and Tanner, they came together. They're like, how can we make football development in Minnesota better? Tanner is Tanner Morgan, former Gophers quarterback. And so they've done a lot of different things with Pro MN. They have 7-on-7 leagues throughout the summer. They have academies in the spring, winter, and summer. Tanner is developing some of the best high school quarterbacks in the area. And then they've also brought in former Gophers offensive linemen, receivers, et cetera, to develop guys at those spots. I just can't say enough. Your kid plays football, wants to play, has aspirations. If you have friends whose kids are in that same boat, please, 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 look up Pro MN, send them Pro MN, and just help them do what they're seeking to do, which is make sure kids have fun and improve playing this game that we all love. Have had an awesome time partnering with both of those folks, all of those folks. So please, their information is also in the description. Now let's get back to the show. I would say the thing you said about Damon Claiborne there in terms of how quick he picks it up, like one of the interesting conversations for me this offseason that I've had it with multiple people that I probably never put enough into, and I haven't done this forever, haven't done it nearly as long as you have, was just like the detail of some of these running back tracks of where they have to angle their runs, of how and when they have to get to certain landmarks. Like the level of, I never really put probably as much into the level of detail that it's required for these running backs to succeed. You see the natural talent like we did. Yep. You mentioned standing on the sidelines. We're standing there in the spring and you're watching Damon Claiborne bounce through blocks on kickoff return. But as a runner, like I've never really, thought about or even heard or asked about the detail of some of the specific tracks and runs. So there is a lot for a guy like him to absorb. And I'm glad you mentioned it there, frankly.
Well, like with a wide receiver, okay, depth of route, it just freaks me out because and when I say that, it's like Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen are two of the best route runners in the history of Vikings football. Both of them very early in their careers. And I remember Norv Turner, former offensive coordinator, talking about this a lot, how naturally gifted they are at hitting the depth of the route full speed and then making the move. So depth of the route could be 10, 12, 14, 16 yards. That doesn't mean hit 9, 11, 13, or 17 yards. And they do it full speed without looking down. And they hit the mark. I mean, that's just so amazing if you think about that.
Yeah, and Kevin O'Connell's offense, I mean, so much of it is space, timing, positioning. Like it is
big time.
It is really well choreographed, and it's not random in that way. Like everything has a purpose. You've stood out there just like I have I just in my mind like think about a red zone drill, and I'll like stand behind the end zone and you can see Kevin O'Connell walking out the precise level of steps a receiver needs to take to be where he needs to be when the quarterback needs him there. And so like all of that stuff, I'd say it's we focus on it probably now. You forget about it when the season starts, but it all kind of matters in the grand scheme of what happens. Okay,
well, that's why when things might not be going well for a team, and they're like, "Hey, we just need to catch our breath and go out and play ball, go out and play playground football." Okay, I mean, in cliche fashion, I understand what you're saying, but the National Football League and football these days at that high of a level is not just go out and play football. There's so much to it, that including what you said about the running backs.
And I think the other component, and then we'll segue to the next question, like people I've talked a lot, I just speak for myself, about the complexity of the Vikings offense. And a refrain I get oftentimes is like, why does it have to be so complex? And there's probably a middle ground in some ways, but you talk to quarterbacks who have been in this system and similar systems, and they will tell you to beat some of the defenses with how smart they are, how aware they are of tendencies in this era of the game. You better be detailed. You better be complex, because the other side is as well. So I could talk about that for a long time.
There are so many, people look at coaching staffs now and they'll be like, back when Bub Grant coached, there were 6 coaches. Okay, I understand. Now there are 20 some odd on staffs. How many of those people are charged with looking at the adversary, the next team? Like multiple people. And
probably the whole staff,
everything they possibly can do off every single set that we see, 2x2, 2 receivers, and a couple of running backs. So it's a lot goes into it, man.
And it's also, they're not even looking at the opponent, just the opponent. They're also looking at themselves to know this is what we did in this specific situation. Yeah. And so we know they're going to expect us to do that. So we'll switch to it. It's what makes it as the chess match of it as fascinating as possible. Okay. Next question comes from a guy, MK, Matt Cad. I think he wants to know about, Tyrion Ingram Dawkins shifting to defensive end. And really, I think it's, what do we think of the edge rusher position behind Dallas Turner? So, and Andrew Van Ginkel. So what do you think about that spot with a couple days until this thing, obviously?
Well, I remember into his rookie year, we were told, that includes that he's going to play, but play some, and his strengths early are going to be against the run, because he's very, very strong. And that proved to be pretty good. I think he had one sack last year. Now he is one of those players where they, at 20, 21, 22, 23, they are growing. And when he got back to organized team activities, I recognized his face, but he looks different, and he just looks more sleek, and like there's more speed and or moves to him. So work in progress. Another fascinating factor of not only preseason, but their spots open with Grenard in Philadelphia, Bo Richter, Chaz Chambliss, Ingram Dawkins, Wild Smith Vilbert, wild card du jour. It's somebody can jump up and make some money. And when you make the active 53 man, you may not play a lot, you may be inactive, but you're in the covenant, which means you have a chance to prove during the course of time, if somebody gets hurt, that you belong. So that's behind Turner and Van Ginkel, compelling.
Yeah, I would agree. And I would imagine Nolan Teasley, Kevin O'Connell get asked about it. I'd imagine, this group is going to be pretty aggressive and active. But Tyrion, yeah. I'm with you completely in that. I think Tyrion Ingram Dawkins, like if you're to rank, you said power ranking earlier. Like if I'm to rank just intriguing, like non-quarterback guys, he would be on the list for me just because he is young. He was a guy at Georgia. You talk to people in the league, they were like, if he stays another year at Georgia, he might be a first, second round pick. Like people saw that potential. Obviously, the defensive staff liked him. So that spot is going to be interesting. I'll just lob this to you because I don't know if we talked a lot about it. Like, what did you think of the Jonathan Grenard departure? Like, how tough was that for you to internalize?
Yeah, I had mixed feelings the way it happened. Mixed feelings in that I understand what Grenard's camp was doing. And I also think it was underplayed either by the Eagles or Grenard's camp. The fact that the Vikings did not have to do this. So they could have muddied this, and they didn't, with the draft approaching and everything. Before it was done, being at the Sixers game with Big Dom behind him, I don't know it's not Jonathan's fault that somebody caught it on camera, but when something's fait accompli before it even happens, that's just not usually how it goes. I adored Jonathan when he was here, off the field and on the field. I had no idea he was as good against the run as he was when he got here from Houston. But this is the business part of the equation, and that was a tough decision to make. But clearly they love Dallas Turner, and Dallas's overall game, I don't believe will be as good as Jonathan's right out of the gate, but it doesn't mean it can't get there.
And I don't think you can overstate just the opportunity for Dallas Turner here. And there is and both in terms of what he could unlock moving forward monetarily, in terms of how he's perceived around the league. I mean, this is a massive spot for him. And I also think it's a massive spot in terms of what the team needs from him. Like, we talk about Caleb Banks and, his health and Dominique Orange and what's possible. And Jalen Redmond's obviously really good. And maybe Levi Drake Rodriguez, Elijah Williams, these guys can take steps, but they're going to need the edge position to be solid with what they're betting on the interior. And that means Dallas Turner has to be a critical piece for him. So it's another one where, again, like the more you talk about this team or me, the more you start to, I realize the amount of subjects that are interesting and worth in-depth conversation.
I know you're going to bring up the quarterback at the end, and that's the A topic until we watch 4 or 5 regular season games and we figure out what it looks like. But you got me going a little bit, and I'm not a doomsayer kind of guy where it's like, injury's going to happen. And also Flores and what they know that we don't, they get the benefit of the doubt because of what we've seen them pull out of players out of nowhere.
Yep.
Okay. With that said, a Van Ginkel or a Turner injury, that knocks somebody out for 3 to 6 weeks. Ooh, that's man. And with the Cincinnati rookie Jake Golday, and I've never brought this up to you. I know that I think he's listed as inside linebacker guy, and he'll probably, play mostly on special teams this year. But if he's the gink in training, or potentially the gink in training, well, why isn't the in training part, involving edge? Maybe it is.
Yeah, I think it definitely could be throughout this training camp. Like, I'm not going to be surprised if there are certain days and packages where he is working with Ryan Nielsen, Thad Bogertis, the outside linebackers coach, if he's up there with opposite Bo Richter or what have you. I just think, this. Brian Flores' system is, there's a lot. And so to absorb everything from the outset probably doesn't behoove a guy's long-term development. I think that's why they started him at off-ball linebacker. But again, I'm not going to be surprised if he's at that spot over time. And I also think from everything I've heard, he is a quick learner. I think he does absorb stuff really fast. So perhaps he's comfortable enough off the ball to where they can start to mix him in more. And I'm glad you mentioned the injury part of it and I think Andrew Van Ginkel more than anybody else, his versatility allows them to play with packages that you otherwise just can't play in because of his ability. And that's why I think the fans see that. I think fans appreciate that, and I give them credit for that. All right, next one comes from a guy, Drew. Do you think Josh Oliver, Jawan Jennings, and Max Bredesen on the field at the same time will be an emphasis? Seems like it gives them flexibility to help the run game. How do you feel about that one, Paul?
What do we have? Oliver, Bredesen, and who?
Jawan Jennings.
Well, I mean, if you can throw the ball in those situations, I mean, you're in business. Not because Jennings, bunch of touchdowns for San Francisco of late, when after Debo left, but when Debo was hurt, and then Ayuk went AWOL. So he jumped up that way, and I'm really glad they had him. They have him on the team. But Jawan Jennings is known as one of the league's best multifaceted overall wide receivers because of what he does in the run force and pass protection if needed. So if you have Bredesen, Oliver, and Jennings, that's a battering ram type offense, but I would think defenses are going to know it's a high probability you're going to run or maybe screen. I mean, if you can get intermediate to explosive in that type of an offense, that opens up so many things for so many different players.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And I think to the question, seeing all those guys on the field at the same time, I think that, I think that's a lot. I do think there's going to be usage of heavy personnel to be able to throw out of more. And I think as long as you can run the ball out of those looks better than they have in past years, you can dictate personnel to the defense. And I've been huge on this. I've said it a lot.
Do you think Jennings plays in the preseason? I do.
Yeah. And this is where I wanted to start with the quarterback question, was how much you think these guys should or need to play in the preseason.
That's you mean Murray, McCarthy, Wentz, and Brosmer. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, Murray and McCarthy, those are the two that I'm most curious about.
Yep.
Last year JJ I think played one possession, if I'm not mistaken, in the preseason, so it's something that's been on my mind.
Okay, how significantly do you take Kyler Murray saying that I'm not used to this? I'm used to getting all of the reps in organized team activities because I'm the starter. And it was kind of an indicator and a tell. I'm not going to say that he's behind, but that it's not moving as quickly as it needs to work for a starting quarterback in the NFL. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was in some ways a declaration that I mean, more than anything, the amount of depth in this offense is beyond what he's experienced, and obviously there hasn't been a ton of time to be able to acclimate to that. I think that was the declaration. And you know this, and Kevin O'Connell said it.
But
Like, I
Darnold
think
didn't make that declaration. And I know it's different with Darnold and Murray because Sam didn't have somebody like JJ or Wentz pushing him. So that I understand that's different and it's fair. But, you know, we don't know exactly how much Murray and McCarthy and Wentz have been cutting the passing plays in OTAs. Well, I mean, that puts somebody at a disadvantage approaching the Green Bay game. I think the one that gets put at the most disadvantage is Murray because he's new. So that's another facet where, you know, when it's like, how much do you think they will or should play? Well, the next part of it would be, how much do you think they believe McCarthy came back from that California quarterbacks camp and just as a man at age 23 or whatever, into his second year playing the spot, third year overall, how much do you think they believe he's matured as a person and professionally?
This show is also sponsored by Great Clips. If you got kids, you know back to school season is a lot. Supply list, shoe shopping, juggling all the schedules. It's not exactly a magical time of year. The Great Clips app, though, that really does work like magic. With just a few taps, you can find a salon nearby, see the wait time, and check in when it works for you. You can even get you can get a message when it's your turn, so you know when to pack up the kids and head over. Oh, and the savings, that's where the real magic happens. So when it's time for back to school haircuts, download the Great Clips app. It may not take care of all your back to school to-dos, but it'll definitely make some of that stress disappear. Great Clips. It's going to be great. Also, a word from Aquarius Home Services, your independent authorized Connecticut dealer. It's summer, and that means home improvement season. At Aquarius, they know that managing a household and all of the expenses that come with it is no easy task. They also know how important having worry-free water in your home is. Your family deserves water you can trust. You use it every day for drinking, cooking, cleaning, and bathing. That's why they are excited to share their summer trade-in and trade-up program. Trade in your old water softener and trade up to a Connecticut whole home water treatment system. The best part, you can get an additional $500 off on top of Aquarius's summer sale prices. Say goodbye to hard water, rust stains, and unwanted contaminants, and hello to cleaner, worry-free water flowing through every faucet all day, every day. Aquarius Home Services. Check them out. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the...
You think they think he's mature?
I think it's going to be about consistency every day. I think that's the revealing part of it is going to happen throughout this training camp. I would say this. The reason I ask about the preseason is because I do think, yes, there's health. You know, Kevin O'Connell has always valued the joint practices more than anything else. I don't expect that to change this time around. And you've got a really good team with a lot of talent coming in for those. But I do think this time around, to build some confidence going into the season and factoring in what we just talked about from a reps perspective, I do think playing in the preseason, whether it's one or two games, for both of those guys, like I do think that is important. That's my opinion.
Yeah. It's important, but I mean, you know a ton about this game, man. So this is, with all due respect to backup offensive linemen. But I don't envision Darisaw seeing the field in preseason. If he does, he does. Who knows what's up with O'Neal? Jackson should play. Fry should play. Brandel should play. Okay, well, if you're Kyler and I'm JJ, and, well, why does he get them and I get them?
Yeah.
And then he's going play action off this guy and I'm going play action off this guy. You know, so all of that is coming up and it's all very fair. But the other side of it is, we have the next game. So, hey, next game, you get these guys and he gets those guys. But I just can't believe it's preferred coming into training camp. Maybe they know exactly who the starters are going to be and why. But if they do, and somebody's getting 60% of the snaps and the other 40 or 70-30, I can't possibly say they do. because you want your main guy, the most important spot on the team, to get everything that matters all the time. And they still seemingly have a battle. So, I mean, I'd like to say one gets one half one game, the other gets another half. Maybe in the Giants game, Kyler plays the first half, McCarthy plays the second half. In the home game against the Ravens, you're going to have had the joint practices, so you're going to have seen which one looked better against Baltimore. I need Murray to play in the home game. I just need the crowd to cheer for him. I need him to run out of the tunnel. I need that whole thing. So, I think that's important, but I also think McCarthy should play in that game too. Then I start mixing in Wentz. And then in the last game, it's probably Wentz and Brosmer. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're on it with a lot of that in terms of how the interesting thing for me, and this is how how it is my mind works, is like, what happens if the first couple weeks and one quarterback looks much better than the other? Then they play the first preseason game, then the one who looked poor looks like the better quarterback in the preseason game. Then how does that alter the course of the perceptions of all of it? I mean, that kind of leads to my last question is like, I mean, how do you feel about the amount of noise that's going to accompany all of this? Like, I guess the direct question is, do you feel like the role of the competition is more beneficial than the byproduct that you deal with of all the noise as a part of it? Like, that's something that I've just tumbled in my head.
If quarterback A clearly in front of everybody, and then with the background steam people get, is winning the job and it looks like it's almost over, I think the more quickly you can give that to somebody, whether you say to the media, yeah, this is our number one and the race is over, I don't care about that. We'll see who the one is by the amount of time they're playing and with whom they're playing. If somebody comes into a preseason game against Baltimore or Denver's 2s, 3s, and 4s and lights it up, I don't care. I mean, it beats the alternative of throwing 3 picks and losing the game. So, I mean, it's with this, the practice reps and this Ravens joint is going to settle the bet. It just has to settle it, whether the media and the public know about it or not. So, neither one of us are as declarative now as we were months ago, being like, it's not a race, not a competition. No, it's more of a battle than people think. It may not be, it may not be 70-30 one guy, or it may not be 50-50, but it certainly ain't 90-10.
Yeah, I mean, I would say this, like and we talked about this on the air last week. Like, I still view Kyler Murray, who has, the experience that he has in the NFL.
But see, I don't like when you say that, with all due respect, because I'm like, why? I mean, it's really, honestly, with respect to Kyler, why? Because there has not been anything in super big moments. Now, there haven't been a lot, but anything that would indicate, that's absolutely the one. But then again, there wasn't with Darnold either. But Darnold got all of it in the offseason. So he came into training camp with the playbook, the voluminous nature of it, and the tricks and everything. He was farther ahead than Kyler. So, I mean, I agree kind of with what you're saying, but it's just, Kyler won Rookie of the Year in 2019, and it wasn't a great offensive rookie situation with everybody's numbers. I just can't wait to watch Kyler run. I mean, because there's part of Kyler Murray's game that is a legitimate threat. And he's one of the best in the history of the National Football League at doing it. So whether you're doing boots, naked boots, reads, keepers, you're calling design run, I don't care what it is. This guy is the best running quarterback I've seen since Michael Vick. And that has to be part of the equation from a scripted standpoint. And we'll see it in the joints, something's going to break down, and he's going to see something. He doesn't know what it is, and he doesn't want to throw because he doesn't want to get picked, and he's going to take off. And the loudest roars that we will get from training camp to a man are when Kyler Murray breaks through that line of scrimmage with the football and starts clowning on people, because that's what he does. He breaks ankles and he clowns, and he is super good at it.
And I think, I mean, the most at least for me, the football nerd in me, the most fascinating layer to that is, is he doing that because he has to do it, or is he doing that because he's not seeing it or didn't make a decision quick enough? And then how is Kevin O'Connell going to feel about that? And how are they going to marry that dynamic?
Awesome.
Like that for me, I've talked to a lot of people who are like very, who've seen Kyler, who have a lot of feelings about Kyler, positive, negative, all of them to a man believe that this is going to be this partnership will be very beneficial for him. But for that to happen, that is going to require some give and take from both sides of people who are intelligent. I think that's the one thing that I would that's become pretty clear talking to people. So
and who's going to be the first one to privately get with General Manager Nolan Teasley? And maybe you have. I haven't. I'm probably not going to even ask this question. Whether I'm doing chapel for the Vikings the night before games and I run into them in the corridors, in the backdrop of road games, where conversations like this I generally avoid because I'm kind of in privileged territory. But who's going to be the first one that's going to get with Nolan and be like, you were in Seattle. I think you played him 11 times, beat him 8 in a row, and some of them were really bad. What do you think of Kyler Murray? I would just really, really love to know what the general manager thinks of Kyler's overall game. I don't know.
Well, this podcast should be published by the time he is at the press conference in front of the media members. And I would imagine a question to that effect, at least in front of the cameras, will be answered. But no, I think, we did 10 minutes on it, and it's compelling in a lot of different ways. And I think that's it's part of what it's part of what I love about doing this job.
You know what I like about the compelling nature of what can be an overbearing conversation, a long-standing overbearing conversation. We just did it. And I've heard you do it with other people. You start on something and it goes directions that are new every single time you talk about it, because until we start playing these games and seeing the practice, we're going to see who handles the pressure. And I'm very curious to see how McCarthy looks and what the middle of the field looks like. And, are we still Nolan Ryan, or do we go, whoa, look at the changeup. Holy cow, big boy found a changeup out there in California. That could happen. Middle of the field, on the run, stuff like that. Outside the numbers is good. We know that. But what if McCarthy jumps up against the Ravens in the joints and is like, I don't care what anybody says about this. I know the plays better than him. My arm is better than his in 6 of these 10 things. And oh, by the way, I can run too. So watch me, because JJ is a competitive sucker, man. And he's beloved in that locker room. And he is because you've written about it. Big boy ain't going down without a fight. and during those Ravens joints, it's a sink or swim for a couple of people, and we're going to be there for it.
Absolutely, we are. You'll be there with your headband, with your headband tucked under your bucket hat with bug spray. You got all the tricks of the trade. Thanks for hopping on.
I'm ready for you, brother.
Yep.
Love the podcast, and love the opportunity to get on anytime possible. And I will see you at Vikings training camp when it's time to memorize numbers and body types. Keep doing a great job. All right.
Thanks, PA. See you soon. And that'll do it for episode 186. Appreciate you guys being here. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify or iHeart, please rate, review, follow us. Hope you enjoyed the conversation with PA. Hope I provided enough information on Jamal Adams at the top. Any other questions, toss them at me. Either in the comments section or at social media at Alec_Lewis, at Alec Lewis Show. And don't forget to check out Stories at the Athletic, Dennis Ryan story from last week. And then, wink, wink, Tuesday morning at the Athletic. Look for it. That'll do it. Episode 186. Talk to you very, very soon.